You got me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How my background look? Can you see me?
Can't see you yet. All I see is the your logo. Do something great.
Okay. Let me see here. What I need to do to turn it on. All right,
Might
here
just
we
have to. There you go. There we go. There we go.
go.
Yes, sir.
All
You
right.
see,
All
I
right.
got the different background today. I'm in the crib.
Yeah. I can dig it.
Yeah, man. But you can hear me good, right?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother.
Good. So we the way I do this, big bro, is we start live. So we already recording. So we live, baby. We live.
Already.
So I know we talked about this before, so let me backtrack. First and foremost, I appreciate you for being a guest on the Some Get It Some Don't podcast. I know we talked about this before, but I had it kind of in my notes. I have talking points, but we got to start off the right way because today is a special day. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? So we got to start off with that. I had it down the line, but with today being today, we got to start off with that. So I'll let you touch on what today is and why it's a special day and kind of how we agreed to shoot this episode on today.
Yeah, yeah, man. So thanks for having me first of all, man. I appreciate you for having me. But yeah, today is a really special day to me, man. It's the anniversary of my younger brother passing. He was killed in 2009. My brother Dash. Man, a light to the world. Everybody he touched, everybody he talked to, man, just a light. So losing him was tough for me. And ever since then, I made it a point just to be great, man, in his name. So it's would have been the anniversary of his passing. That's why I told you to be a good day to do it.
Yeah, and it's so crazy that we tried to make it work and it didn't really work, but it worked today.
It
So,
did.
and that's
Perfect
why
timing.
for like we had to make sure it happened today, due to what you just said. But I wanted to just kind of share a story that I had of Daesh. Um, of course, like we weren't super cool like that. We were cool for sure, but I know he a little bit younger than me as well. But it was crazy because he knew how much I like G Unit
Mm,
and he had this G Unit hoodie, sweat top or whatever. It was like green and black. I remember like it was yesterday. And I remember he pulled up at my daddy's house, like, "Hey, bro, what's up, man? I got this hoodie for you." And he pulled up and gave me this G Unit hoodie. And that's like one of my fondest memories of Dash. I mean, of course, I got a few other ones, but that was
yeah,
cool to just kind of to piggyback on what you said of being a light, how he was. He pulled up and gave me that hoodie. So that kind of gives you an example of how Dash was, man. I still remember getting that call. I know you dealt with it directly, but indirectly, it just was so hurtful to me that to hear those things, like for somebody like that to pass away in the manner that he did. So I'm glad that we was able to do this on today to kind of shed light on that, and then of course keep his name going because Dash was one of those guys. I mean, the song "So Polo," I think it's so fitting for Dash. You know what I'm saying? Because that's who he was, man. That boy was so polo. He was always clean. I think you posted a picture not too long ago when y'all had on. I know it wasn't polo. I think it was Ed Hardy or something, but y'all had on. But at the same time, that was Dash. That was Dash.
definitely was
so
him. Definitely was him.
I'm glad that we got to pop it off with that first and foremost. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about my big bro. Let's talk about Damien. So I like to give people the full story. So let's touch on some of your fondest memories that you can remember or relate to of early age Damien. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have to get into the middle school or
Man,
nothing. Let's
man.
go to Tech Ghetto. Let's touch on that first, because I know you are a proud representative of Tech Ghetto. So let's touch on
Yeah,
that.
I am, man. I am. So, man, I was born and raised in Tech Ghetto, man. If you live in Lubbock, then if you live in Lubbock now, you probably didn't know it was there. So they came and wiped our neighborhood out. But it was pretty tough, man. The crime rate was crazy. Low income, uh, drugs, like it's you name it. You know what I'm saying? But I had some fond memories over there, running with some of my best friends. So growing up there was tough. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like it made me the man that I am now, and I feel like I'm an ambassador for Tech Ghetto, man. Like I love where I come from.
And I did want to expand on what you said because for those people who may watch the podcast and may not know what Tech Ghetto is. What we're referring to is the place literally by Texas Tech University that a lot of people don't know where the Walmart is and the Eskimo huts and all of those things, the Raising Canes. None of that things existed. I think the only thing that really existed around there was maybe Ramirez Middle School or elementary. I'm sorry.
Elementary. Yeah,
So
yeah.
so so
That's
a
the only
lot of
thing.
stuff that you see over there in Tech Ghetto was not there before. So
Not
that's the area
none
he's
of
referring to.
it. None of it. So they came and wiped all the houses out. They put up a lot of student housing, and from what I've been told, they basically charge, I think, anywhere from like $1,000 to $1,200 per room for the student housing. So yeah, they took away the neighborhood and they built their own.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody was familiar with what we are referring to when we say Tech Ghetto, because people be like, Tech is a school. Yeah, it is, but it's also a ghetto in Lubbock.
Yeah, it's
It
not there
was,
no more, but
was,
it used to
was.
be.
Yeah, it was. Um, so moving forward, I know that me and you, we share these conversations a lot, that we are both part of I don't want to say a family, but a group of people that we hate, that people are involved in, those people who have lost their mothers. So I wanted to touch base on, I believe her name is Sonia, if I'm not incorrect. So I just want you to talk about your mom, what she meant to you. Excuse me. Obviously, she did pass away earlier on in your life. So if you want to just touch on that situation for a little bit.
Yeah, man. My mom meant the world to me. Growing up in Tech Ghetto, being honest, mama sold dope, and that's what I used to see. So I seen people coming and going, and mama sold dope, so she could make sure that we could survive. So uh, in between all of that, mom ended up getting in a little bit of trouble, so she ended up going to jail. Whenever she went to jail, I ended up moving to Oklahoma for a little bit with my siblings, with my uncle Leonard and my aunt Sue. And like they kind of taught us a little bit more about what stability was and things like that. So I spent a couple years down there while my mom was in jail, and then I came back to Lubbock, Texas, where I started attending Lubbock High. I did pretty good in football, good enough to get a scholarship and go to ACU.
Hold on, pause it. Don't go too far.
Okay, all
Don't
right,
go
all
too
right, all
far.
right.
No, we getting there, baby. We getting there. Don't go
All
too
right,
far.
my bad, my bad. But yeah, Mama so dope, man. Mama so dope. She did good as far as being a mother, but I think some things that I probably shouldn't have seen at a young age, man. But Mama showed love at all times. She always showed us that sticking together and staying together was the best thing, man. Losing my mom was a really, really hard thing for my whole family in a whole.
And it's so crazy, but this is how I know this podcast is meant to be, because the way that I put my talking points, as you can see, they always flow like right in, and it segues to perfect, because the next topic was family.
Yeah,
So for those who don't know, like Draper has been my big brother. Like, of course, he was 2 grades above me with my cousin Greg at Hutch and stuff, but he's been my big brother since I was in middle school. But it's so crazy because I didn't know about his whole family until we got later on in life. So the next topic or talking point that I had was family. So can you kind of explain your family dynamics, like your siblings and all those things?
yeah, man. My family dynamic, man, it kind of goes as such, man. It was as far as my mom's kids, it was five of us. I was the oldest. In 2000 and I believe it's 2002, my younger brother passed after being bit by a spider. He went into toxic shock syndrome. His name was James Young. He ended up passing away at the age of 13. And then in 2009, my brother Dace, the anniversary today, he was killed. But I still also have my sisters, Katasha Allen. They call her Kat. I call her Sita. She hates for me to call her Sita, but I'm always call her Sita. It is what it is. Big brother. And my baby sister Dee Dee, Khadijah Pollard. Those are my siblings on my mom's side. I have Papa was a Rolling Stone, so I have a ton of siblings on my dad's side that I don't think I've met yet. But I do know my sister Kendra and my brother Robert.
And that's what's so crazy, because as I said, I've been knowing you since middle school. I didn't know about the sisters at all, like at all, at all, at all. Of course, I knew about James, which that was one of the talking points that I was going to touch on as well, but never knew that. So that was kind of crazy to, like, as we become older adults and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's Draper's sister, whatever. Which, to be fully transparent, I don't really truly know your sister like that anyway. Like, I know her from Facebook and from you talking about her, but so it's just crazy. But I wanted to touch on that because I think that's key to kind of for people to know that you were the big brother and how you took on some of those responsibilities with your father being a Rolling Stone and your mom being who she was. You had to kind of take on some of those responsibilities as the big brother, which we see in our culture a lot. So I wanted to make sure that we touched on that because I think as we go on this journey, people will understand how you became who you became and all the things you had to deal with and overcome. You were kind of put at the forefront at an early age. So
Yeah.
I think that was key to touch on that part of your journey.
Yeah, 100%. Like I got thrust into that position and I just had to, like my mama said, sometimes somebody gonna throw you in the water, you just gotta swim. So that's basically what happened to me in my life. And I didn't want to drown, so I swam a little harder.
Correct. So as we moving forward on this journey, we talked about, the tech ghetto and stuff. Let's talk about JT Hutchinson. So some of your fondest memories and what you kind of can talk about as far as Hutch. Let's talk about that now.
Man, JT Hutchinson, man. Of course, one of my fondest memories of my childhood is football, man. Playing football at JT Hutchinson was like the love of my life, man. I had fun with it. It was the first time that I actually played competitive sports. It was seventh grade because back in the day, middle school was sixth, seventh, and eighth, right? No, it
Yes,
was seventh,
correct.
eighth,
You're right.
ninth.
You're right. No, you're seventh,
No,
eighth, and ninth. Seventh, eighth, and
seventh,
ninth.
eighth,
Seventh, eighth,
ninth.
and ninth.
It was
Correct,
seventh, eighth,
correct.
and ninth. So that was my first time ever playing competitive sports, and I excelled, man. Like we used to just play in the gravel. We used to play throw up tackles, sideline rack up. So I didn't really know I was that good until I got to Hutch. Man, a lot of my cousins, a lot of my friends, man, Jamal, my Chandlock family, man. I love my peeps. I grew up with them, man. They're my people, man. I grew up with Maul. That's one of my closest friends when I was growing up. So him, a lot of the coaches, Coach Ivy.
Coach Ivy, baby. I remember he was telling me, you better wear a jockstrap, boy.
Hey man, hey man, but a lot of those men they helped me become a man because I didn't have that father figure growing up. So learning camaraderie and structure and stuff like that—that's what I can remember for sure. I loved it.
Okay. And as I said, I mentioned I did go to Hutch as well. So they were 2 grades ahead of me, but and this is what's so crazy to me. Like I looked up to them and they never I know sometimes as we talk about our culture, people like initiating people into gangs and groups and this, and that. But when I went to Hutchman, it was all love. Like, of course, you gotta earn your stripes or whatever you want to say. But these people that was in the ninth grade at the time, when I was in seventh grade, they showed major love. Even me come from the east side, not being from Tech Ghetto, it was all love. That's why I said I always looked up to Drape, Jew, my cousin Greg, Bump. Like when I went to Hutch, man, it was just all love. So I still remember this, and I know you do too. But it was funny because we used to call the front of the school Mexico
Mhm.
because if you walk to the front, that's where like all the Mexican people was, and then if you
Yeah,
walk by the I don't know what it was called, but wherever the athletics was, that's where all of us was. You know what I'm saying? So you would have to walk up there with somebody. You better have some protection
you better
walking to
walk
the
with
front.
somebody.
So,
Yeah,
but
man.
I'm glad that we both got to cross paths at Hutch, which leads us into Lubbock High. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people been giving me my flowers, but I want to spend time to give my brother Draper his flowers. And for those people who watch his Snap or his Facebook, you see him posted all the time. But bruh was really, really like that. He was really, really like that before them knees got a little loose. Bruh was really like that at quarterback at Lubbock High. So let's touch. We can talk about the athletics, but I'm gonna open the floor for you to just expand on whatever you want to as far as your high school career, whether that's sports, extracurricular, any other extracurricular, or just whatever your time was at Lubbock High School. Because Draper was for us as the black culture, he was the standard for black people or whatever at Lubbock High. So
Man, I had fun at Lubbock High, man. Like again, sports was the forefront. I didn't really get into a lot of trouble at all because I was basically focused on being in sports. Um, I was worried about the girls. I was walking the hallways a little bit, but I was trying not to get in trouble because I wanted to make sure I could play on game night and stuff. So I guess my grades were okay. I don't think I ever really failed in anything. I played baseball my sophomore year, and I was on the varsity team. More so probably for running because I had some jets. I was fast, but I guess I thought I was too tough, so I didn't play that next year. But I did play my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year at Lubbock High. So my 10th and 11th grade year, we kept the Spurs. So all the
Hey.
Monterey, everybody went to Monterey. Remember that I was part of that class. I know I almost blew the game, but we won the game. We won the Spurs twice in a row. So, man, but I did pretty good, man. I feel like I would have done a lot better if I worked out. I wasn't one of them people that was working out. Like I was just basically doing what I did on talent. I was one of them people where when we were in the weight room, whenever coach turned his head, I just hold a bar. Then when you turn on to look at me and blow the whistle, do one. You know what I'm saying? So I was in there playing. So I think that's kind of what happened because my junior year, the first game of the season, man, I shined. Like I got so many letters like that next week. It was crazy. And the second game of the season, I'm shining. Right before the second half, boom, I get hit in my knee and I kind of feel a little crazy, but I'm like, I'm all right. I'm young, so I'm like, I'm okay. But I go in and I'm like, man, something really wrong. So they tape it up. I get to finish the game and everything was cool. But I end up going and getting a MRI, and that's when they told me that I tore my meniscus in my left knee. I was like, man, I was devastated because I'm like, I haven't signed to a college yet. I still need to finish this senior year so I can get a scholarship. You know what I'm saying? My family don't have no money like that, so getting a scholarship was very important for me. So because I really wanted to go to college, so the coach was like, "Well, what you want to do?" I was like, "I don't know. I'll tape it up." You know what I'm saying? So they taped it up. I never took any medication other than like Tylenol, and I ended up playing the rest of the season with it hurt. So I probably damaged it a little bit more doing that. But man, I love football. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't want it to ruin my career. I knew what I needed to do. So but yeah, man, that was Lubbock High, man. I got through it. I like it. I like being there now too. So I love Lubbock High.
So I always like to touch on this because we're gonna come full circle with this whole on this whole episode today, but you don't really have to touch on where we at now. But while you were at Lubbock High, maybe even at Hutch or elementary, what was the thing that inspired Damian Draper, as we know, Drape? What inspired you, or what are some aspirations that you possibly had, or what are some things that you wanted to do in your career, or with your career, I should say, moving forward?
Of course, when I was young, man, I had those league dreams, man. I wanted to go to the NFL like everybody else. I used to think I was Ricky Waters from the 49ers, you know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
Ronnie Lott, you know what I'm saying? So like I had those dreams, I had those goals, I had those aspirations. I probably just didn't have that work ethic, excuse me. But that like I guess I would say, man, some of the things that really motivated me was getting out of my situation. I seen a lot. I seen a lot of things that I shouldn't see, man. Like people that were under the influence of drugs. Back in the days, we used to call them crackheads. I'm a mental health professional, so I have a completely different understanding of
Yeah.
people. But I used to see people that were strung out, man, and I used to see people breaking in houses. I used to see people fighting, a lot of gang violence and stuff like that. So what motivated me was to just not be that. My mom used to always tell me, baby, no matter what you see, I want you to look outside the box. I don't want you to just stop at what you see. Just know it's something better outside there. And that always motivated me, man. I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to do other things and stuff like that. And it was because of what my mom taught me.
And that's why I want to touch on that because once again, as I said, we're gonna get to where we're at now. Obviously you repping it today with the merch, but we're gonna get to that. But I like for people to see that a lot of times the the initial thing or those pre-thoughts that we had when we were in middle school, high school, are not what we came to now. But it's good because I think what you just said and what your mom told you of thinking outside the box, I think that kind of helped get to where you're at now. So I like for people to see the whole journey, but I also understand that it is some connection sometimes, with those journeys. So I'm glad that you said that. We're gonna come back to that for sure.
So for sure.
So So moving after, Lubbock High, as I said, my bro was legit when it comes to the sport. So, and I know that you played injured, with the meniscus issues and stuff. But can you let us know first, like what were some options that you had, post high school? And obviously, let's lead into the ACU days, and then we can come back to when we came back home, the LCU. We can get into all of that. But what were some of the options that you had, post high school?
Me and one of my close friends, Julius Williams, we were heavily recruited by Tulane, Oklahoma State. Uh, the one that got away from me was New Mexico University, the
In
Lobos
Albuquerque, in
in
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. So after I got injured, I remember the coach. I don't remember his name, but hopefully, if he see this podcast, he'll remember me. But he said he contacted me and he was like, "We want you." He was like, "But we know you have the torn meniscus." He was like, "It's between you and this other offensive lineman. We don't really know what we're going to go with." He was like, "But if you want to, we can get you to walk on here, and maybe you can get yourself a scholarship." So I was like, "Man, no." I kind of want to stay closer to home if I don't have a full scholarship, you know what I'm saying? So they kind of fell off. And when they fell off, I was like, ATU was right here. And I had been talking to them and I knew I was going to need like a strong faith base because I had been through a lot, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to go to a campus that had like a rich culture of faith, man. I needed to be around people that cared and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of why I ended up choosing ACU too.
Okay. And once again, this is how me and my brother was connected. Of course, I went to the elementary I went to. He went to elementary he went to. We both ended up going to the same middle school, but as I said, he was older than me. He went to Lubbock High. I went to Lubbock High for a few weeks, and I went back to Estacado. But once I graduated Estacado, my brother Moody ended up going to ACU. Well, Moody was already kind of on the team, and I think at the time Draper was still kind of there, but kind of having some other stuff going on as well, which we'll touch on that too. But me and Draper kind of got even cooler or closer, as you can say, when we were in Abilene. I know we talk about it all the time, but I vividly remember taking you to Snyder to pick up that car. Like I remember that. Like, it's just some of those
Yeah.
memories that I remember. So once you got to ACU, let's kind of dive in onto your time in Abilene. Of course, like we don't have to touch on all the stuff if you know what I mean, but let's touch on the
Yeah,
Abilene
yeah.
experience, and then we can transition to the other stuff.
All right. So when I went to Abilene Christian, man, sadly, I won't touch on why I had to leave my first couple of years because I'm sure we're gonna get back to that. But I had to leave like my first and second year. It was like it was mandatory. There was some trauma that came up, so I had to leave. But I finally went back, and I enjoyed Abilene, other than the fact that the town closed at 10 o'clock, so it wasn't really no trouble to get into. So
Yeah, it
uh,
shut down. It shut down, boy.
shut down. There's nothing for you to go home. There's nothing open. So like I wasn't at one of those schools where you can be out partying and stuff like that. Because I remember hearing a couple of times the dean walked into a couple of parties and I was like, oh no, and it was zero tolerance. I'm like, oh no, I'm good. I'm gonna chill on that. So, but ACU, man, it was good, man. Like it was a good football family, good people on the campus. Man, just like I said, rich in culture. A lot of people that care, want to pray for you, want to help you. Just a lot of genuine people. That was a culture shock for me because, like I told you, I grew up in tech ghetto. So going from tech ghetto to something like that and having to be vulnerable, and I had to change my whole character. You know what I'm saying? I had to actually start letting people in and stuff like that. When I was at first, I was a little bit more standoffish. So, but ACU, man, it was ACU and Abilene itself, man. Like I don't know if people know this, but Abilene was in the Guinness Book of World Records for most churches in the town.
Yes, and that's what I was gonna say when you were talking about it closed down at 10. It's
Yeah,
for a very good reason because
yeah,
everywhere you go, you will see a church
a
for
church.
sure. For sure.
Everywhere. So if people wasn't going to church, it was because they didn't want to. That wasn't because they didn't find that church. They just didn't want to go.
Everywhere you turn in Abilene, it's a church. And when we talk about churches, it's whether you're a Presbyterian, Baptist,
Baptist,
Catholic,
Church of
whatever.
Christ. Mm-hmm.
Whatever you are, they have a church
They
like
got
on
something for you.
every corner.
They got one for you.
So I'm glad you brought that up as far as the trauma stuff that happened and you had to leave. Let's touch on that. But before we get to that, can you speak to some of the people because I was just telling somebody this about this yesterday that I was decent at football. I could have been a great role player or whatever. Like I was not Draper, I was not Moody, I was not at their level at all. I could have been a great contributor, but I will say this: being able to go to ACU for the 1 year that I did and Draper was there as well, still around, the town and stuff. We got to play football with some very, very high level individuals. And
Yeah.
I think when I was there, most of the people that I remember were from Texas A&M. And then we had my boy from Indiana, which is ironic because they playing tonight. But we had some very high level people. So let's touch on who the people that you got to, meet and be on the team with, and also what was that reason why you had to come back home?
Man, oh, it's a lot of names I can tell you, man.
A lot.
Adam Black went to A&M. Dewan
Mhm.
Gentry was my roommate, man. Shouts out to Dewan Gentry. He's Lil Flip's manager. Um, Richard Whitaker came from A&M.
Yep.
Uh, man, it's a
What was the,
lot
what
of
was the quarterback name? Because he was from A&M too. Wasn't the quarterback? Can't think of his name, but he was
Billy
from A&M
Malone.
too.
Billy
Yeah,
Malone.
yeah, yep,
Billy
yep.
Malone. Yeah, shout out to Billy. He was nice. Billy was good. Um, Also, man, of course, man, Danielle Manning, man. I'm talking about dog, dog. Like I knew I had talent, but I knew that's where talent and hard work that's where it met when I met Danielle Manning. Shouts out to my boy Yay, man. Like I'm talking about a dog. If they don't know who I'm talking about, Danielle played at Abilene Christian, and he was drafted as a junior out of Abilene Christian to, I believe it was the Texans, if I'm not mistaken.
The Bears.
Bears. Yeah, he went to the Bears
Remember?
first, and then he
Yes.
went to the
Then the
Texans.
Texans. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I'm talking about a dog, man.
Hey, I was telling somebody this yesterday. I said, listen, I knew I was decent, and once again, I'm decent. But being on the practice squad and playing against them, I said this is a whole different level. Because
Yeah.
all of them killers that Draper is talking about, most of them play defense. So you
Mm-hmm.
going out every day, and I'm getting jammed up at the line by, as you said, the one and Adam Black. I'm like, bro, what am I supposed to do? And then Danielle Manning, like, come on, bro, like what?
Man,
What do you want me to do? I'm 145 pounds.
man.
So yes, absolutely. Like, yay was a different breed. This may be a myth, but I think it's some truth to it. But I remember my first year there, we had off season, and they said that Ye pulled up in some Chuck Taylors and ran a 4.3 in the 40.
Yeah,
But
that's he very well probably done that. Like it,
that's what I'm finna say. It could be a myth, but it's very possible. But because who it is,
I had speed, but Ye had track speed. Okay, I used to see him. Because I was quick, so I was more of the quick back, the scat back. You know what I'm saying? I could do the little moves, and they'd tackle me 15, 20 yards down the field. He'll do the little moves, and then he'll take it to the crib.
the
Then
crib,
back on defense.
the
I'm telling you.
crib. Man, Ye was so special, man. And I think one of my fondest memories of Ye was even now when we was at ACU, as I was still cool with Boss. I know you remember Boss from
Yeah.
Corsicana.
Wow.
So they was
I'm boy.
like real locked in or cousins or something, whatever. But he went to like one of his first games, and I don't know if it was his first one or one of his first ones. One of his first 5 to 10 interceptions was against Brett Favre. And I got to
Mm,
talk to him after he got it, man. I still remember that like it was yesterday. I thought that
nice.
was so
Nice.
cool. I was like, bro, that's dope because like I said, once again, I wasn't like Draper at all. Like I'm a practice team player. Most of the cats really didn't even know me like that. But for him to like even remember who I was and still be cool, I thought that was like so dope that I got to talk to him after he got the interception against Brett Favre. So that was cool.
Man, everybody remembers Tuki. Everybody remember you to this day, brother.
Well, I'm just saying, like as far as on the football team, you know how it is when you're a practice team
I
player.
understand what
They
you mean.
and let only reason why I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm okay with it because I'm still me. But the only reason why people know me is because Draper and Moody. If it wasn't for them two, they wouldn't knew who I was. Like I just was locked in with them. So, which,
They
like I
knew
said,
we
I'm
from
cool with
Lubbock.
that.
They knew we
Yep,
were all from
exactly.
Lubbock.
So, to moving forward to piggyback on that, what I said, let's talk about the reason why you eventually ended up leaving the Abilene and ACU.
Yeah, man. So my first day of college, man, 8/20, 2001, my mom died. So I was devastated, man. I was in Abilene, and they told me that my mom had turned for the worse. So I got on the highway and I drove back to Lubbock. I would never forget it was raining. It was raining so hard, but I wouldn't slow down. I was probably driving about 80, 85 on the highway. And by the time my mom made it, they told me she had passed away. She was diagnosed with cancer whenever she had got out of jail. Man, my mom was diagnosed with cancer and died of cancer in less than a year. So it was devastating for me, man. Um, that that's what kind of sent me home for a little bit. And I came back to Lubbock, man, and I kind of got myself in a situation where I could have lost my freedom, man. I was hanging with a couple of my friends and I wasn't working. And I guess that's when something told me, man, I'm a hustle. One of my friends like, man, your cousin the plug, you should hustle. So I did, man. I started hustling for about a week. You know what I'm saying? I'll never forget it. And I was hustling with my kinfolk Drape Baker.
King
I'm
Dre,
proud.
baby, King Dre.
Man, I done went over there and I called myself hustling, man. I done bought me some crack, about $50 of crack. I'm feeling good about myself, man. And we go over there and one day Dre said, man, it's a little hot over here, man. Let's leave. And one of his little kinfolk stayed over there, man. And we went over to his aunt's house and we was just looking over there and we was standing. And I seen somebody walk up to his cousin and he made a little sale. When he made that sale, law just converged on. Woo! I was like, oh no, man. So I'm gonna tell you exactly what I did. I reached in my pocket. And I said, here, so you can have that. And I got on the phone. I swear to God. And shouts out to Coach Carthel. I got on the phone with Kobe Carthel at Abilene
Yep.
Christian, and I'm crying. I say, look, I almost ruined my life. My mama told me not to sell no dope, and my mama then died, and that's exactly what I was just doing. I could have lost my freedom. I said, I want to come to college. He said, all right, we'll be there tomorrow. And man, they came and picked me up. You know what I'm saying? And whenever they came and picked me up, I went to Abilene Christian, man, and I went down there, and I wasn't there. I wasn't there long at all. And I get a call to something's up with my little brother, so I got to rush home. And I was the one that ended up taking my brother to the hospital. And whenever I took him in there, they had to. I guess I don't know if it's incubated him. I'm not sure, but they put him. They sedated him. And whenever they sedated him, they was like, man, he's sick. We just don't know what's making him sick. His vitals are all over the place. And we just can't figure it out. So I'm like, oh, man. So later that day, one of my younger cousins, Aaron Henderson, the ace, he ended up coming and he was like, hey, man, I remember he had got bitten by a spider on his leg. So sure enough, the doctors had went and they looked and they saw that he had, it was a bite. He had been bit by a brown recluse, I believe like a month prior, and he didn't tell anybody. So later that night, he went into toxic shock syndrome and he ended up passing away. So man, I was devastated, man. At that point, that was the trauma. I'm telling you, bang! I just lost my mom of cancer. Bang! I just lost my little brother being bit by, well, not being bit by the spider of the toxic shock syndromes. But I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really don't know what I'm gonna do. So the coach, he started calling me back. He was like, man, he was like, I know you're hurting down there. But we went and got you for a reason. You were ready to come to school. You need to come to school. That's the best thing for you and your family. Left messages after messages after messages, and I just wouldn't answer because I was just hurt. I didn't want to play football. I was really close to my little brother, and that was our love. Football was our love. So, man, he probably called for probably a month straight, man, and left a message every day, every day. And when I say he, I'm talking about Kobe Carthel, Coach Carthel. He called a month straight, just call, call, call. Man, I finally answered that phone, man. I was like, all right, coach, I'm ready. I was like, I'm ready to come to ACU. I'm ready to go. And sure enough, man, I went to ACU, man, and things ended up going all right for about 3 years.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I like for people to see the fact that people say it, but when you can actually hear it from somebody who went through it, that it's not a straight line. It's gonna be bumps and valleys, hills, and all that kind of stuff. Because as you said, you went, you left, they called you, you didn't go, then you finally went back, and as you said, it went good for 3 years, and then moving on to where I'm getting to the next. But I just like for people to see that no journey. Well, I don't want to say no, but most journeys are not linear. They're
Yeah,
just not.
yeah.
It's just not. But I'm
Gonna be
saying
some bumps in the
people hear
road.
that. Yes, but people hear that it's not linear, but they don't see those exact instances where people can speak on that. So, as you said, you did what you already said what you said, and then it went good for 3 years. But after that 3 years, let's tell the people what happened next.
All right, so I was there for 3 years, man, and well, actually, the first year that I finally got to get on the field, man, right before spring training, right before the spring game, I'm balling. I'm finally on the field. Things are going good for me, and something kind of popped in my other knee. And I'm like, what the crap? I'm like, man. So I get an MRI. Sure enough, I tore my meniscus in my other knee. I'm like, man. But at this point, I still want to play. Um, but coach was like, you can play in the spring game, and then we'll have the surgery, and we'll see if you'll be ready for next season. So I'm like, all right. I played in the spring game. I started in the spring game. First play of the spring game, I never forget. They ran a dig route to Jarrell Badon, my guy, Jarrell
You from
Badon.
Abilene too, right?
Yeah, Jarrell Badon.
Yep.
Taught me he a dog, man. He a beast. But and he used to get me in practice on the regular, so I'm not talking out of hand. He ran a dig route and he caught it, but I closed on it, I grabbed him, stripped it, turnover for us. So the team real live. I'm like, man, I'm feeling good. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the field, things are going good. Then coach ended up putting me a cornerback on the other side. When he put me a cornerback on the other side, they ran a running play. Whew. Rashawn Miles, you said it earlier.
Indiana.
Rashawn Miles from Indiana. This dude was 245, 6162 of just pure muscle. Like
Solid.
every time I walked by the weight room, he was there. Every time, like anytime, I'm walking by, I'm running by because I don't want nobody to tell me to go in there. But every time I go by there, he there. I'm like, this is the most solid person I've ever seen in my life, bro. And here comes they end up giving Rashawn the ball. Well, I shed my cornerback, I shed my receiver, and he don't see me. And I just went at him like a missile and hit him. Everybody was like, who was that? I'm like, was that Draper? So I was live, man. I was like, man, things gonna go good. Things gonna go good, man. Well, I finally ended up getting on the field, man. Second game of the season, things was going all right, but that was after I had the surgery, so I wasn't at my best. Second game of the season, I remember cover three. I don't remember exactly who we was playing. It might have been Oklahoma, one of them Oklahoma teams. Central Oklahoma or something like that. Well, they ran like a out and up or something, and I seen it. I picked it. I'm live. I'm like, oh yeah, things is going good. I'm like, yeah. Well, 2 weeks later, I get a drug test. I'm like, oh, mind you, I've been smoking weed. Yep, like I shouldn't have been. I had been smoking weed, but I was like, oh man. Well, one of my friends was like, man, this is how you got to pass it. This is how you got to pass it. So I'm like, all right. So he told me how to pass it, and I guess I passed it. Well, mind you, I done went right back to smoking. They popped me with another drug test 2 weeks later. Oh, I wasn't ready for that one. I wasn't ready for that one. I went in there and did my business, peed, and Coach Thompson. That's by that time. That's when we had Coach Thompson. He had came from Central, I believe, Arkansas. He came. He was like, Draper, I got to talk to you. I was, what's up? He was like, man, I got to let you. We got to let you off the team, man. And you failed the drug test. I was like, man. I was like, man, I was devastated because I didn't want to go home. What am I going home to? You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't fail my people. I'm supposed to be leading my people into a different direction. It's already trauma that's going on, so I was devastated. And ACU was a zero tolerance school. Anytime you do anything, you kicked out of school. Well, something told me that I needed to talk to somebody, man, because I had been through so much, man. I felt like I needed to talk to somebody before I just gave up on my dreams. And I ended up going to one of the deans. Man, I wish I could remember his name, but I ended up going to one of the deans, and I had a conversation with him. I let him know my background, what I had been through, what I had just been through, and man, he was like, man, with a story like that, he was like, you do deserve another chance, but on one condition. I said, what's that condition? He said, you have to see a grievance counselor. And I was like, what? A grievance counselor? Like, well, that's like talking gibberish to a black man.
Yeah, so we don't know what is that. Grievance, what is
A
that?
grievance counselor. I'm like, what is? I was like, man, me a grievance counselor? I'm like, man. By that time, he was talking gibberish to me. But when he said it, I was like, man, I'm trying to stay in school, so I'm gonna do anything I can. So I ended up going to see a grievance counselor, and I ended up staying in school. I didn't play football for that semester because I got kicked off, but I stayed in school. And that was probably one of my best semesters at ACU academically. Like I did good, and I was seeing a grievance counselor. The thing about it was an older white woman. So I held back a lot of things because I didn't really relate to her.
Yep.
I was really only doing it so I can stay in school. I didn't really know it was going to help me. So I was really a little standoffish, man. So, but to this day, that was probably the best thing I've ever did in my life. Letting it out, talking to somebody about the grief that I had been through. My father was also killed when I was 6 months old. I ain't even mentioned that. So having that kind of grief and stuff like that, man, and letting it out and talking to somebody, that was literally the best thing I've ever done, man. That's why I 100% promote that. And whenever he told me to see the grievance counselor, I'm like, I didn't think it was going to do nothing, but I'm like, man, this is actually helping. So I see the grievance counselor. That semester goes good, but whenever I failed the drug test, financial aid. Whenever I lost my scholarship, financial aid also they dropped my financial aid, so I was going to have to pay for that semester. Well, I don't know if people know this, but ACU is expensive. It's expensive. Each
Very.
each semester was $15,000. So I had $9,000 that I had to pay. I had to pay that, or I had to leave school. What I'm gonna do? I don't have it. I didn't have anybody that can loan it to me, so it was a no brainer. So that's when I end up having to leave college.
Damn, that's just so crazy that a lot of people have to go through that. Exactly what you said is, regardless if it's academic wise or family issue that you're going through, as you said, failing the drug test. In our community, we don't have a what's that a phone a friend or whatever. Like you can't call no family member to say I need 9K.
Ain't none of
You
that.
out of there. You out
You
of there.
have
So if you can't figure it out, you done. But the good thing that you said about all this, which of course, once again, as we progress through this journey, is that I know I'm willing to go on the bed and say at that time you didn't know that that was going to play a part in who you would become later on down the line at
definitely not.
all, at
Definitely.
all. But it's cool to hear this because at the time, like I didn't know that at the time, and other listeners don't know that either. But all they know, for most people that know you, they know who you are now, but they don't know that this specific moment played a key piece in who you will become as well. So I
A
think that
huge.
was dope. So that's what I'm hearing from this story is that that was a major point of who you will become later on down the line. So that's dope. It's not ideal of how the situation happened at the time, but it still played a part in who you will become down the line.
Yeah, 100%. It shows resilience, man. Like a word that I didn't even know. I didn't even at the time. I didn't know what it meant, but I had resilience, and I was raised that way, and I didn't even know it. I had that in me, and like my mom used to say, it's not on you, it's in you. You know what I'm saying? So, but being resilient probably saved my life.
And so before we continue on that journey, as I said, of course, it's been a while, so I don't know when which event happened, but I would be remiss to not speak on. Of course, I'm not that close to him like that, but my nephew, because you my brother, so that's ideally my nephew. So we got to touch on that, and so if you can kind of speak on along this journey when that happened, and also how that changed you as a man as well.
Man, my baby, Damon. Man, I had my son when I was 19 years old. I was going to Abilene Christian, and his mom ended up giving me a call and telling me that her water broke. So I'm dashing. I'm driving back to Lubbock as fast as I can, and I get there, and she had already had him. I'm devastated, but he's still all slimy and stuff. So they like, but you can still give him his first bath and everything. And so I ended up giving him his first bath. Ended up giving him his name and everything else. And man, like he changed my life, man. I knew for a fact I didn't want to leave him like my father left me, which it wasn't my father's fault, but I knew I wanted to put myself in situations where I could be in his life forever, as long as I could. He helped me become a man, helped me mature. He helped me be more accountable. He helped me know what love is. You know what I'm saying? Like loving somebody to the point where I love him more than me. I want him to be more successful than me. Like he was that light for me. I guess going through all the trauma that I've been through, that's probably what helped mend my heart, because I looked at my son and like he reminded me of my little brother. Like I called him the same thing that my mom called me. You know what I'm saying? Like my little boy, he probably saved my life as well, man. He is like me and his mom were probably off and on for years and stuff like that. But one of the things I was gonna never do, I wasn't gonna turn my back on him. So I stayed in a relationship that I probably shouldn't have a little longer. Now I can, looking back on it, I'll just be a man and say, yeah, I stayed too long. I stayed in a relationship probably a little too long, but I wanted to be that father for my son, because there's a stereotype with black men saying we're not good fathers and we're not good providers, and that we walk out on our kids and stuff like that. And that's what I used to hear in the back of my mind. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I'll stick around. And but I always had a great relationship with my son. Still have a great relationship with him now. He used to play baseball, man. That was his love. He never played football, and I never pushed him to play football, because I feel like the reason that I was able to play with so much passion and so much free will to just throw my body into somebody, and even if I get knocked out in football and stuff like that, is because of what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? And I had been through a lot, and I had played football in the streets and stuff like that. That wasn't my son. He ended up playing football with Moody's son one year. And I remember one time he was like, I was like, we had came from practice. I was like, so what's up, son? I'm like, how you liking football? He was like, I like it. He was like, I like it. But this is how I knew my son wasn't playing football. He was like, I like football. I like it. He was like, but why do they have to touch me? I said, oh, no. Yeah. I say, yeah, this ain't the one.
We're going to have to find something different for you, baby.
Yeah. I say, this ain't the one.
Because they're going to touch you every play.
Every play.
Every play you're going to get
supposed to hit something every play. Every play, knock something out. You know what I'm saying? That's how I'm a teacher. So I say, yeah, that's not going to be his sport, man. So he ended up playing baseball. His mom is Hispanic, so he's half Hispanic. Great eye-hand coordination, but he had two left feet. He was slow as dirt. He didn't have the speed that I had. So every time we would play people that their kids, or I would know the parents and stuff, they like, Draper, why come he ain't got your wheels? What's going on? I'm like, man, y'all better leave my son alone before I jump on y'all. But he he played baseball. He excelled in baseball. He did pretty good. And he plays golf now to this day, man. The dude is lights out, man. He loved playing golf, man, and just a great kid, well-rounded. He's everything that I wanted to be when I was younger. He's compassionate. He's understanding. He's a hard worker. Like he's just an all-around really good kid. He's the reason that I didn't have another kid. I'm like, he's so good. If I have another kid, it's gonna be Satan. So I'm like, I'm good on that. I'm good.
That's why I wanted to touch on that too, because obviously as a parent, I think it's key to touch on those moments that help, mold us to who we become. But once again, another moment of giving flowers. Like you were someone that I always looked up to see if I ever become a parent, that's how I want to be. And I think it's key for us to point this out. As you said, y'all was off and on, you and his mom. But the fact that you never wavered from being a good father is the key that I wanted to touch on, because a lot of people feel, well, I'm not with the mom, or the mom is tripping. They don't have anything with you being a good father. Like, and I think that you are one of those examples of what it takes and what it is, the example of being a good father. So that's why I wanted to touch on that, because that's how I see my situation. Like I remember hearing when I was having a kid, I wasn't with my daughter's mom, but I said at the end of the day, I didn't ask, this kid didn't ask to be here. So I'm gonna do whatever it takes to be with my daughter, and that's what I'm doing. I go every weekend, drive 2 hours there, 2 hours back. But I wanted to say that because what you said kind of helped me. Whether I don't know if I've ever told you this, but whether you know it or not, you are an inspiration for people like me or other people to see what it takes to be a good father. And I think it's a direct reflection of how Damon is now, as you said, being respectful, upstanding gentleman, like that's because of how he was raised. Whether I know this because I'm close to you, whether by his grandparents, his mom, and you as well, that's a direct reflection of how you were as a father, because we know it in our culture, the father missing is not a good thing most of the time. So
That's
kudos to you.
thank you, man. The thing about it
Yes.
is, man, whenever Damon was 13, me and his mom, we called it quits for good. And I hear a lot of fathers that say they can't be the father that they want to be because of who the mom is, and that's trash. That's trash.
Trash.
And
Trash.
the reason I say that is because my son's mom ended up putting me on child support, and I'm like, what? I'm a good father, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, well, you tripping, you know what I'm saying? But instead of me doing all that talking, man, I just got a lawyer. Whenever I got the lawyer, I told my piece. We went through mediation, and I got 50-50 joint custody. So and I didn't pay all the money up front. I'm not no D boy. I had a job, so I paid in installments. I think I paid the lawyer like $150 every month or something like that until she took care of the situation. But I did that because I knew what kind of father I was, and wasn't just going to be paying child support for a kid that I'm already over here taking care of. You know what I'm saying? So I would be taking food out of his mouth just to put it somewhere where I know it's not going to be for him. So for the men that say that they can't be the father that they want to be because of the woman, hey man, get a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? Get a lawyer so you can better your chances at having joint custody or something like that. Because if you're dealing with a woman that's unruly, then you still have to be a good man or a good father to your child. You know what I'm saying? You can't make excuses for why you're not a father because of who the woman is. And I know there can be some unruly women. Don't get me wrong. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've lived like whatever. I have family members still to this day. I've seen. I'm like, man, you don't have to beat it with that man. You can let that man be a father. I've seen it. So all I'm saying is, if a woman is unruly, that has nothing to do with who you are as a man, and it has nothing to do with who you are as a father. If you want to be a good father, do that. Whatever it takes. If you got to get a lawyer, if you make sure that your child's relationship, you and your child's relationship doesn't go down the drain because of how you feel with the mom.
And that's what I was saying too, as well, because I think a lot of people use that as an excuse or a scapegoat, however you want to look at it. If you want to be involved in your kids' life, you can be.
And
And I'm not saying it's going to be ideal once again, but as you said, if you need to get a lawyer or you need to show up to every game, whatever, like whatever sacrifice you have to make, if you
make
want to
it
be involved in your kid's life, you will.
will
But if you don't, you won't.
you
So it's
won't.
just that simple. And as I became a father, I've been a father for 5 years now. I realized that. So I heard stories about dudes like, oh, my baby mama don't want me to do this, and I'm just like, no, it don't really work that way. Yes, as you said, there's some unruly women, but if you do what you need to do, you're gonna be able to see your kid. Point
100%.
blank. Period.
It's
Point
not
blank. Period.
it's not hard showing up. It's not hard showing up. And if you showing up, that relationship with your child is gonna flourish between. But all of that stuff that's going on, if you showing up and being a man and being a father, it'll show. You know what I'm saying? No woman alive could ever keep me away from my child.
Mine either. It's not happening. Because as you said, if you doing what you're supposed to do, that kid gonna be asking for you. And I don't care
100%.
if you're a woman or a man. If somebody keep asking, oh, where my daddy, where my mama, at some point you're gonna have to make that connection. Unless the
Mm-hmm.
person don't want to do it. But if you're a good person, they gonna make that connection and you're gonna be there to be there for your kids. So glad you said that, because that was a very, very key moment, in my life, as being a father. And as I said, seeing people like you and others, I was like, oh, that's what it takes. So kudos to you for sure.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
All right, so we're gonna be kind of wrapping this thing up, but as I said earlier, I'll be remiss to not talk about this. Let's talk about. I'm gonna combine a few things because I think they all go hand in hand. Let's combine with you moving back home, getting into the mental health or arena or whatever. Let's talk about that. Like what I think, as we heard the story, some of your previous experiences and things that helped you cope with life and get through life probably played a part. But let's talk about when you moved home, the LCUs, the graduating, all of those things. What got you into the mental health space?
Man, so 100% my trauma is what made me want to get into psychology. I wanted to figure out some things because I knew I was going to be dealing with some things. So I'm like, if I get a psychology degree, if I'm get to take some classes, maybe I can figure some things out about myself. It was pretty selfish, but it was because I knew I was going to need to heal. That's really kind of why I went into psychology. Whenever I came home, I ended up going to Lubbock Christian because I ended up talking to the dean at Abilene Christian, and he said I talked to him about releasing one transcript, and he said I talked to him for 2 days. I say, please just release one transcript because I owed the school money, and it was no way that I was going to be able to pay for that stuff, man. So I had this long talk with him. He said, I tell you what, he said, I'll release one transcript if you'll go to our sister school. If you'll go to Lubbock Christian, which is a faith-based school, I'll release that transcript. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, cool. You know what I'm saying? Man, so I went to Lubbock Christian while I was actually working at a place called what was it called, man? It was this rent to own place. And
Credit
I had
World,
worked there, huh?
Credit World.
Credit World. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I had
yeah.
worked there for like 2, 3 years, man. And like I don't know. I guess things was going all right. It was a cool job. I worked with one of my cool friends, Bud, Samuel Anderson, like, you know what I'm saying? But like it was a cool job, but I knew I wanted to do more. So but one day, man, I'm at the house, man, and at the time my brother Dash, he stayed with me and my son and my son's mom. And he hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna go out, man." I was like, "All right, man." I said, "Be careful, I love you." And he went out and from what they told me, on 2 or 3 different occasions, he tried to stop his friends from fighting. On 2 or 3 different occasions, he tried to stop them from fighting. And he finally threw his hands up and said, "Forget it, man." And he walked off. Well, when he walked off, shots rang out. Who you think got hit? Dash. So my brother ended up getting killed, man. Whenever he ended up getting killed, I was working at that place and I was like, man, you know what? I got more purpose than this. You know what I'm saying? I think I want to go back to college. So I went and applied at Lubbock Christian. And I ended up taking this test, and they told me if I pass that test, I can get in. I passed the test. I'm like, heck yeah. So me being happy, I go talk to my manager and them, and I've discussed me setting up a schedule to where I can work and go to college. Well, they say, okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it tomorrow, and we'll let you know. Mind you, I had been there, and they told me I had been there longer than any other assistant manager, and I had did so well, all this other stuff. They give you the paper accolades, great job, all that other stuff. All I wanted to do was go to college. Well, they end up telling me the next day, no, just flat out, no. We don't want to. We can't accommodate your schedule. So if you don't want to work here anymore, that's fine. But we're not going to accommodate your schedule. That same day, I went to Lubbock Christian and I applied and I got my class. So while I was working there, while I was still working there, I was using their work truck and going to college. Yeah, because I was devastated when they told me that I couldn't go to college because I felt like they was tying my hands behind my back and just let me take it or leave it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to college, man. So while I was going to work, I was doing my job, but I was using the truck and I would go to class and stuff like that. I end up I end up holding a 3.2 GPA, and I ended up graduating with my degree in psychology in 2013 from Lubbock Christian. Man, one of the best days of my life, man. 100%.
Damn. See, and once again, I just like for people to understand that the journey it's just not linear. It's just not. I don't really know too many people who just went on the straight path and got everything done, and that's just what it is. So I think that was key for us to bring that up because now we're gonna really go full circle with going to I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was called Star Care, or is it called something else? We gotta touch on that because we come in full circle to what you're wearing right now. But
Yeah,
so
I don't
let's touch on the Star Care experience.
I don't really say their name. I just call them the local mental health entity
Yeah,
because
yeah. Sorry.
they rub me the wrong way, and I'll let you know why. But Yeah, I end up working at the local mental health entity after I got my degree at Lubbock Christian University. I worked as a case manager for children and adolescents for about 2 years. That's where I started gaining a lot of knowledge on my community, the school districts, and the problems that are going on in the community and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. Like that's when I started learning how to get in and out of schools fluently. I had to travel to different counties because I had different kids on my caseload. But it was a cool experience, man. I really liked that. But I've done that for a couple of years, and I was like, man, I kind of want to make some more money. And this position came open as a crisis technician. Whew, man, one of the toughest jobs I think I've ever had in my life because I'm super pro-life. And as a crisis specialist, if you ever know anything about crisis, it's a tough job to have. So currently, I'm one of the only 1% of mental health professionals that live in West Texas that are Black men. It's less than 1%. So with clinical level experience. But I worked as a crisis technician, man. That's working with people that were experiencing suicide ideations, homicide ideations, on drugs, mentally decompensated. Man, there was all kind of things, man. I worked with the local police department and the sheriffs whenever we used to have to get emergency detentions. Just a lot, man. That's when I learned a lot that was going on behind the scenes in the world that I had no idea about. So I learned a lot more about the children too. That's when I learned about the behavior problems and how they would report suicide ideation so they can get out of things. I used to have to hospitalize people on a regular day basis. I would schedule their hospital. I would schedule their transportation, and I would complete a note and a disposition to get them hospitalized. Man, that was some of the toughest times in my life, man, because here I am being pro-life after the trauma I've been through, and I'm working with people that are this is the worst day of their life. You know what I'm saying? They want to take their life, or they're trying to take someone else's life, or they're mentally decompensated to the point where they don't even understand what's going on. Okay. But I worked there for a few years, man, and towards the end of me working there, they start kind of discriminating against me. And I made a report, and they didn't really they didn't take me seriously, and it kind of made me mad. So I was like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Right around that time, I was like, uh, I'm gonna start a business because I'm kind of figuring out what's going on here. I think I can start a business myself, but I didn't know what to do. That's when one of my coworkers, Lucas Brink, man, shouts out to Lucas, man. He came to me. He was leaving the job in 2 days, and he came to me. He said, "Man, have you ever thought about being a life coach?" I was like, "A life coach?" I'm like, man, no. I'm thinking, hear me, I'm thinking a life coach is somebody that got it all figured out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I ain't never thought about this. But as soon as he left the room, I looked it up. I'm like, there's different kind of life coaches. There's one for religions. There's one for sports. There's like all kind of different ones. So I'm like, okay, I can see where he's going with that. And then I looked and see how much you can make as a life coach. I'm like, oh, you can make some good money as a life coach. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to look more into this. Well, the next day he talked to me. He was like, man, so did you ever look into the life coach? And I was like, yeah, man, I looked into it, man. And it's something, man, I might move forward on. I just don't know. Mind you, he's going to be leaving that job the next day. Well, he had an assessment at one of the schools, and he went and completed that assessment, and he came on back. He didn't say anything to me. Well, I get a phone call later that night from a woman, and she said, hello, is this Damian Draper? I'm like, yes, ma'am. Can I help you? She was like, the life coach Damian Draper? I'm like, yes, ma'am. Can I help you? She was like, okay, well, I was giving your information from a counselor, and she was giving your information from Lucas, and he states that you work with children and adolescents, and you're one of the best ones in the county that does it. And he told me that you're not cheap, but you're one of the best that do it. And I'm sitting here like, what? I had to put the phone down for a second. I'm like, oh man. He just threw me in the water. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, what the crap? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? But mind you, remember what I told you, my mom told me, you know what I'm saying? Think outside the box. And
It's out the box.
if you get through in that water, you just got to swim. So I picked the phone up and I was like, yes, ma'am, that's me. I was like, let me know what's going on. And I've already been doing this with assessments, taking information, finding out their diagnosis, finding out if they experiencing any psychosis. Like I've already been doing this for them and getting paid a little bit of nothing. So I was like, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? So I set it up. I set up an appointment and I set up to meet the woman on like 2 days later. And she was like, okay, so I know you're not cheap, but I kind of need to know how much you're going to charge. And I was like, I didn't know, bro. I was like, right now I'm just starting up, but I'm starting at $75 an hour. And I held my breath. I was like, she was like, okay, I'll have that ready for. I was like, what? I was like, oh man, here I am working for these people. I'm literally, bro, I was making 1950. You hear me? 1950. It was crazy. 1950 an hour working for these people. And I said $75 an hour. And she was like, okay. And I was like,
That's almost times four.
yeah. So I'm like, oh man. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. So that I get off the phone with her and I call my coworker, my ex-coworker, and I was like, hey man, I'm like, you name dropped? He was like, yeah, I was talking to a counselor, man. He was like, man, Damien, I've seen you work with kids. That's why I've called you in with me so you can help me every time. He said you have a knack to do it. Like you have like this. He said you have this it factor. I see when you work with kids, you're great with them. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. He was like, I apologize if I did anything wrong. I was like, nah, bro. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, I
No,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Yeah. And the way he promoted me, like he's not cheap, but he's one of the best ones. That's whenever you're promoting someone, that's how you need to promote them if you're trying to help them. You know what I'm saying? And she was all for it. You know what I'm saying? So what happened was right around the time when I'm trying to start this business, and I told you that the job had been discriminating against me. Like right around that time, I end up going back to school so I can get my master's. So while I'm dealing with this discrimination and while I'm trying to start this business, I'm in school to get my master's in public administration with an emphasis in conflict resolution. So as I'm going through all of this and I'm going through school and stuff like that, man, as I'm in school, I'm like, man, I think I can do this business thing. You know what I'm saying? I think I can really do it. And the last straw at the job was, of course, man, Q Lou, man. After Q Lou passed and that job, they didn't give him any recognition. They didn't send out any emails, like anything, bro. It pissed me off, man. It really hurt me down to the core because he's the one that referred me to that job. And I had been there faithfully, you know what I'm saying? So when he passed away and they didn't give any recognition, I was like, you know what? I'm done with this job. You know what I'm saying?
Time to go.
So,
Time to go.
yeah, I gotta go. So as I'm going to school, thank God I graduate. Nothing sets me back on this one because I'm going to school. I'm stable. Things are going good. My son's in school. Everything's good. So I ended up graduating and I got my degree in public administration with an emphasis in conflict resolution from Wayland Baptist University. So when I got my degree, man, and after they done what they done, I was like, you know what? It's time to go. I'm going to start this business. And that's when I came up with rejuvenated life coaching. And the reason I say it rejuvenated is because I was always like, man, rejuvenate, like water rejuvenates you. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I really like this rejuvenated thing. I'm like, man, I'm gonna just do it. I had been running it by my friends and my colleagues. And they was like, yeah, that sounds cool. So I'm like, man, you know what? I'm gonna do it. Rejuvenated life coaching. And that's when I got my LLC to be at. That's when I got my LLC for rejuvenated life coaching. And once I started my business, man, like my life changed like tenfold, man. It just took off. You know what I'm saying? Because after that last straw with that mental health entity, I end up quitting. I I typed up a nice resignation letter. Um, I also did a video on TikTok.
That's what I was gonna touch on. I was like, we gotta touch on that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did a little TikTok video. Yeah, baby, already. I did a little TikTok video because I was done with it, man. I was basically telling him I was walking out. I was done. I quit. And man, right now it's up to like 717,000 views. You know what I'm saying? So it's a cool little video. If they're getting a chance, they can go check it out under D Draper. And I also posted my resignation letter. And my resignation letter was just basically telling them, hey, man, Y'all discriminated against me for the last time. Um, we have a large amount of black and brown consumers that we see, yet you don't try to retain your black and brown employees. They were playing me a little bit of nothing. They had a guy that was over me that was trying to bully me, and I'm like, and they already they tried to play the card where, oh, he's being rude, he's being mean. They were trying to play the little old stereotype card. So I'm like, you know what? I'm out. So when I did that video, man, I left. I ended up being contacted by a few different people for a few different contracts, man. And after the woman that I told you that I met, I ended up working with her son for about 6 months. He ended up doing better. He's in high school now, and he's doing better. And I ended up getting contracts with the Juvenile Justice Center here in Lubbock, Texas, with the school district. I got a couple contracts with a couple of the other school districts. Man, it's been a light, man. Like starting my business is literally the best thing I think I've ever done.
And so, with that all being said, as I've been mentioning through this whole journey, is that I knew it was gonna come back full circle, obviously, because you're my brother and I know you. But I wanted to spend this time to shed light on not only how the journey has transformed you, but how it has come full circle from what the things that you've been through to you becoming a life coach now to help other people through their situations, their trauma that they've been dealing with. Because I think a lot of times what people fail to realize is that the things that we go through, for those who are believers or those who inspire to keep going, is that you go through these things not only for yourself, but for you to be that person for somebody else. So I think at the time when you were going through these things, it probably was hell. You probably didn't understand why. But now that you can see where you're at now and the people that you're able to help, you had to go through those things because just imagine, I mean, of course, we know that, but it's hard for you to help somebody with the situations they're going through if you don't have any experience with those situations. So
Great.
I'm not saying that it was the best thing to happen, but it had to happen for you to become the Damian Draper and the mental health professional that you are now. Because if you wouldn't have went through those experiences and the losses, and as we said, the peaks and valleys, it's no way that you could be the dope professional that you are now. So I just want to kind of come full circle to kind of touch on as you look back now, as I said, at the time, you probably didn't even think that this was in your cards to be who you are. But let's touch on what some of those previous experiences meant for you and kind of touch on where you see yourself going from here as well.
100%, man. So when I became a life coach, man, I already had my niche because I was working in mental health. So I knew that was my target audience. I was going to be working with children and adolescents that had behavioral problems, some that society might call at risk. Um, and once I started working as that, man, like I knew my niche, man, because it was one of those things where I finally figured out what a life coach was. A life coach isn't somebody that has it all figured out. You know what I'm saying? A life coach is somebody that has been through a ton of stuff, gained a ton of knowledge, and able to teach you the things that they've learned. And once I started learning that myself, man, I'm like, oh man, the floodgates open. The floodgates open because I've been through so much. I've seen trauma in so many different ways, and I've seen depression in so many different ways. I've been depressed myself. You know what I'm saying? I had to teach myself coping skills and everything else. So being able to teach people those skills and stuff like that, man, that's been a light to my life because when I was working as a crisis specialist, like I used to work with people on their worst day. It was literally probably the worst day of their lives. But as a life coach, man, like I'm able to teach people like life skills on a regular day basis. I'm able to tell them the things that I've been through, and that's really helpful because I tell them what I've been through, and they look at me like, "Dang, you've been through that, and you smiling?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm healing."
Exactly.
So it's hard for people to understand that it's because they haven't went through that healing process. You 100% have to go through the healing process, man. And when I say that, it's not just a 1 or 2 time thing. I heal every day. I'm going through some type of healing every day. You know what I'm saying? So my ability to teach people that is my strength and my ability to be relatable because I can articulate myself and I can talk like this and be professional as I want to be, or I can talk to like I talk to my young kids. They teaching me the riz and all the stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I'm adaptable and stuff like that. So that's what's made it a really good journey, man. And it's also been one of those things where, like I said, my mom was selling drugs and stuff like that when I was young and stuff like that. So now I'm working with kids that they have parents that are selling drugs, or their parents that are in jail, or they're coming from low socioeconomic static backgrounds. So I've been through that. So I know the trials and tribulations that come with that, so I can help them through those situations a lot easier. And I'm from this community. I've been in this community my whole life. I've been to almost every elementary. I've been to a few of the middle schools, and I've been in and out of every school in Lubbock. That's why it's able. That's why I'm so able to go fluently in and out of schools. I know a lot of the parents of the kids that I serve. I also work with adults too. So I worked in Midland. I ended up putting on a team building exercise for mental health. So if anybody needs something like that, they can contact me about that, because I do that for adults and children. Don't think it's just for children. I just specialize in children because there's nobody that does it.
Exactly.
But man, like the need was so much there, and I didn't know it, and I didn't understand it until I thought about myself. And then that's what I said. I want to be the person that I needed when I was growing up, and that's what I want to be for the kids that I serve. And since then, man, it's been a light, man. Like the kids that I serve, man, and they go through some trials and tribulations, but I'm able to help them go through that. And I engage with them and their families. I pick them up, take them on outings. I go into school so I can make sure they doing their work, and I always make sure that they not, of course, with the behavior problems, but I want to know if they're doing well in school. Like, do you need some help? Because there's a lot of kids that don't ask for help. There's a lot of kids that act out because they don't understand something. The teacher tell them to read and they don't know how to read, so they admit, forget you. Instead of
Exactly.
acting out, man,
Exactly.
just tell the teacher that you don't understand instead of you acting out and getting kicked out of school. But those are skills that I'm able to teach kids, because those are things that I've seen. Those are things that I know. So the things that I've been through has 100% helped me be a better life coach, man. And the love that I get from it, man, is endless, because helping somebody get through something, especially traumatic, man, that's a priceless situation, because I know how it feels to hurt. I know how it feels to be low. You know what I'm saying? So helping people out of that is a joy to my life. And I'm learning more. I'm getting more contracts and stuff like that. I'm learning every day. I'm learning that I got to build a team, because, like I told you, less than 1% of mental health professionals in West Texas are Black men. And I work with a lot of kids. So I got to figure out more about my business so I can expand and stuff like that, so I can get more people working with me. Because, of course, I want to make more and more, and I want to help more and more. And the only way you can do that is by being in a team. And I learned that I can make an impact, but I can make a much bigger impact if I can build a team. So that's kind of my next journey, man, trying to build up a team so I can keep it going, man. And just, I want to go across the world and tell my story, man, and be at different schools and different community functions, man, like, because I'm still standing, man. And if I can help anybody get through the stuff that they are, and feel the way that I do today as far as healing, man, I'd love to do it.
Man, and just hearing like this whole story, and it's so crazy because most of the people that I had on the podcast, I've had a relationship with or have a current relationship with. But even hearing some of this stuff that I didn't know about, it just gives me a greater appreciation for all the work that you've done and the work that I know that you'll continue to do. But before we wrap this up, I did want to once again thank you for being a guest on the Some Get It Some Don't podcast. But I also wanted to once again, for the last time, give you your flowers, because I think it takes a lot for somebody to endure all the things that you've been through, and not only keep going, but also use those things that you've been through to help others. Because as you said, I think it's a lot to be said for people to see people like us that they can relate to, but also just from the physical seeing people, but also your mom died, your brother died, your brothers died. I'm sorry, your dad died. Like, you have a lot of things. A good friend died. Like, you've been in an environment that a lot of people can look back and say, "Oh, well, I'm not the only one who went through this." Because I think sometimes it's a lot of great, dope mental health professionals, but if you can't sit down and talk to them about a situation that we've both been through, it's kind of like, well, I just know you just giving me professional advice versus advice that you've actually done. As you said before, you had to dig yourself out this hole. So I just wanted to spend time to touch on that too, because a lot of people don't spend time on self-reflection and to think I got to make sure I'm better to go help other people because I can't help broken people when I'm broken. As they
Yeah,
say, broke people or what they say, hurt people.
hurt
You
people
know,
hurt.
so
Mhm.
that's why I think it's dope that I had to touch base on that, and I'm glad that you spoke on that because a lot of people don't do that. So kudos to you because hey, you always said that one of the I think you say the dopest or whatever you say is mental health professional,
Dopest
but it's
mental health
very true.
professional in the
You
game.
know what I'm saying? It's very true because you be fly, but you've also been through a lot. And as you said earlier in this episode, a lot of people like, man, you've been through all this and you still smiling. Yes, yes, it hurts. Yes, I have my moments, but I'm still smiling and I'm still trying to move forward because that's what we got to do in this life. Every day we wake up, God giving us another chance to move forward, to be happy, to make an impact on this earth. So once again, brother, like I'm glad that you spent time to do this podcast, this episode today, because I think the people that watch it, those who don't know you, are gonna be like, oh wow, and hopefully not for the financial benefits, but for the impact that you can help some other people, that they reach out to you to actually help those not only students as you said that you specialize in, but those adults as well, because you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience that can help people get over the current situations and also better their situations they're currently in. So, man, kudos to you, man. Kudos to you, brother, for sure.
Appreciate it, black man. It's been a journey, man. But man, one thing I will say, man, is like my mom said, man, keep swimming, man. As soon as you stop swimming, you're gonna drown. So if anybody's going through anything, man, I encourage them to just keep swimming, man. Talk to somebody. Like that's one of the best thing I did was talk to somebody and let it out. Pressure busts pipes. And if you keep holding on to that pressure, it's going to bust that pipe. You know what I'm saying? So mental health is one of the most underappreciated things in the world. I don't know why they call it a soft science. There's nothing soft about it. The things that I've seen and seeing people with the psychosis and oh my God, I've seen some crazy things. So like take care of your mental health, man. Take care of your mental health first and foremost. Because if you don't take care of your mental health, it was damn sure not gonna take care of you. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen some people that were just fine when they were younger or something like that, and they got addicted to drugs or they went through a mental crisis or something like that, and it changed them for the rest of their life. So I 100% promote mental health, man, positive mental health, man, and healing. Walking around, walking around with like this built up trauma can hurt you, of course, but it's probably gonna hurt the people around you too. Because just like you said, hurt people, man. So, but if anybody needs me, man, I have a website, man, rejuvenatedlifecoaching.com. I'm on Facebook, Rejuvenated Life Coaching or D Draper. Give me a call, man. Also have an email address, rej.life.coach@outlook.com. Reach out to me, man, if y'all need some help, man. I'm the dopest mental health professional in the game. I got you.
Hey, we'll make sure to tag that on the when I upload it. So I get with you so we can add those links. So if people need those specific links, we can do so. But as I said, once again, brother, I'm glad that we finally made it happen, especially on the day that we made it happen. It makes it even better. You know, rest in heaven to my guy Dash.
Rest in
As we
peace.
said, you know, we started off the podcast with that, so I want to make sure that we touched on it again. But as I said throughout the whole podcast, I appreciate you, brother. You know, I love you. You are a great motivation, inspiration, however you want to look at it, man. I'm glad to be involved in your circle and be part of your circle as well. So, hey, I thank you very much for being on the Some Get It Some Done podcast, man. Appreciate you.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man. You got a dope concept, brother. I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of the father you are, the man you are, the friend you are. You know what I'm saying? Keep motivating me. You know what I'm saying? Like we can build off of each other, man, and give God the glory, man. And I love you, brother.
All right, brother. Love you too, man. I appreciate you. I'm sure I'll see you here later or tomorrow for sure.
We finna turn up for sure.
All right, brother, man. I appreciate you. Have a good rest of your night.
All right.
All right.